How's it going? I hope you're doing as good as I'm doing today because I had a very rejuvenating workout today. First time back in Orlando in a little over 2 weeks, and it is good to be back. You know, I always get a little nervous getting back into a gym that I haven't worked out in even a week, you know, as short of a time that is, because especially with Olympic, switching any type of equipment can make you feel really weird and make you have to like kind of rethink how you do your form and your intensity, your effort, your training all around. And today just went fucking great. You know, today was a very, very good prime example of my form really finally taking good shape overall. You know, I'm getting a lot more confident in my own abilities. Before I get ahead of myself, physically, I'm feeling a very nice 8.2. Very, very nice. Very solid one at that. Because, I mean, the clean and jerks I felt really good on. Again, some of them got a little weird. You know, I leaned forward a little too much on one rep here and maybe didn't get as much of a drive on the dip and drive as I wanted to on one or two there. But did my best, put in my best effort. And overall, I think the form was really good for not using this weight in a minute. And something that I had been complaining about before was that the bars at the crunch I go to in Alabama are like perfect for Olympic weightlifting. They are so spinny and whippy that it just makes getting under it feel that much easier. And not only that, I don't need to work out on the wood, but man, if you're an Olympic lifter and you know, hearing the shoes clap back at you when you land in a snatch or a clean or do the split jerk, oh man, like it's such a good auditory cue that like lets you know exactly like how evenly you hit it, you know, because you do it so many times that you can hear that visual or you can hear that auditory difference between how good a rep was just by how hard or evenly your feet slam on the ground. Similarly, you know, if you've ever dapped someone up and you had a really, really good dap and it like clapped back really hard, same type of shit. You know, you only feel that like really good, like, damn, that was a good one until you hear it like actually like clap back with that sound that you didn't realize was there. It's just a matter that you hit it in that perfect little crevice that made it that much easier to lift. But other than that, bench felt good. I've been benching on an Olympic bar for 2 weeks because Crunch didn't have any powerlifting bars, so it did feel a little weird to get back to that with how much more stationary it was. I was getting pretty used to how bouncy the bars were at the Crunch, but I'm happy with how it moved. I feel like my closer grip is starting to feel a lot more natural because I like using the form and explosivity of the lift rather than putting too much strain on my shoulders just so it doesn't mess up my Olympic lifts in the long run because I've had that issue before. But yeah, I'm feeling great. Mentally, shit. 9.1. Just over that cusp. Because, oh man, you don't really think about it too much until you get to go back and experience it. But when you haven't seen the OG gym homies in a minute, or just OG homies anywhere, you know, like if you grew up with certain people in high school that you still like talk to on the side, but you don't really get to see much, when you get to see them and it just feels like nothing's changed because you just got that good of a homie relationship and you can just like run in, just like nobody really thinks about the fact that you've been gone for a certain amount of time or that certain things have happened in between. Just a matter of all of you are still showing up, being consistent and just loving life, doing what you can to stay passionate and supporting each other while we're there. So it was just really good. Like I spent like 3 hours, if not more, at the gym today solely because I was just shooting the shit so much with all the good homies. Not that I let it take away from the individual exercises. I was moving quick while I was doing the sets. But, you know, in between my clean and jerk and benches, there was a good 30 to 40 minute gap of me just yapping on because I had to catch up with the homies. I love it. It's one of the things about the gym that make me just that more passionate. Anyway, I wanted to talk more about how good it felt for me today and why that's kind of it's a little shocking, but in a good way. It's very rare, very, very it's exciting. You know, it lights that fire again, even more than it's already been. But I used to complain so much that the equipment at my gym was not as adequate as other places like the Crunch I was working at. And especially when I got to go there back in February, I had really convinced myself that like, oh, it's the bar or like the spinniness or whatever is just, it's affecting my lifts, and it should be better. And to a point, sure, you can give the equipment some blame, but to me now, in the long run, I fully believe that you can make the best with any equipment that you've got, as long as you prioritize your technique training before you put on the weights, you know? And even so, even if I didn't get to put on as heavy as a weight as I did at a different gym, I just got to view it as like, even if I'm a little bit nerfed compared to where I could go at this other gym with the whippier bar, it's still the same amount of effort. I'm not any weaker. It's just a matter of it's not the same number. And I say this all the time, you gotta lift for yourself. You know, you can't just make it all about that big number that you put over your head for the one time. You gotta really give yourself that credit for the energy and the lifts you're putting in the weeks and weeks and weeks of programming that you set out for yourself. And today, I luckily got to prove two sides of this. Because one, not only was I not worried about the weights and I was just going in, just wanted to do my best. This is why percentage training is good sometimes, like I'm doing now, instead of rep maxing or doing RPEs, because it can let you kind of focus on your form and your technique and get used to different styles of conditioning with your training. And I fully thought that it was going to be a harder day of lifting today, but I really got to I got to prove myself wrong in the best way possible, because it's such a good thing to me that there's so many things that I don't actually know in this sport, even though I've been doing it for so many years. And I feel like, especially with how I'm self-taught with Olympic lifting and self-taught with programming completely, it's really, really endearing to always know that there's something new that I can learn along the way, even though I feel like I know so many thousands of fucking things about these lifts. But anyway, I get it. If you have like really, really shitty equipment, it can suck and it make you want to switch gyms or whatever. But if the equipment's like fine and you just think that like, oh, this one gym just has a slightly better bar, slightly better weights, and it could be a heavier number, just like remind yourself of the effort that you're actually putting in, you know? Stay true to your program and like let that effort flourish through it, you know? It's okay if you don't hit the same weights, but I fucking promise you are not going to get weaker because of it, you know? In fact, something that you could think about, even if this may not encourage you to think better about it, but something that encouraged me to be a bit more positive was the fact that I could kind of tell people that when I'm working out at this gym with certain weights and certain bars, I'm what is it? I'm not working at my full strength. You know, I'm being held back. I got the limiters on. You know, if you've seen any fucking anime, you know what I mean. But I got to remind myself that strength is still there and the form is still there. It's just a matter of how far I'm willing to go to prove to myself that I can really do it, no matter what I'm given. You know, because I say this a lot. If gyms didn't exist, but we knew how to do these lifts, you're goddamn right. I'd be working with shaved tree branches. I'd have 1,000 fucking splinters, but I love this sport. I want to keep doing it no matter what. And if we didn't have any gyms, then I wouldn't give a shit about using something else that made it harder, because I just want to do the lifts. So even if there's a slightly better way or a slightly better bit of equipment or whatever at some other gym, remind yourself that like that's not the big picture. It's more so that you just want to better yourself. And so instead of worrying about that number, think of how you can make that worse equipment worth it, and actually give it the time and effort to see if it's really worth quitting that area or that gym or that equipment and going on to the next one. Because you never know, that next one also might not work out for you. And then you're like, oh shit, well now I really don't know what works, you know? So give it at least the full effort to see if that equipment can actually work for you. Because I've been training at this gym for over 2 years now, and I don't think I realized till just recently how good my form could be. You know, with this kind of equipment. I always thought the bars were stiffer, and with the weights again, it's okay that the weights aren't super wide like a crunch or as bouncy, but you know, it definitely made it feel a bit bendier and a bit whippier when I threw it. But regardless, I did my best. I honed my technique, and again, this is why percentage-based training is so good, is that, you know, just occasionally, you get to really focus on what is lacking in your technique. And something I've been working on is making sure I pull the bar a little bit closer to my body on the way up, just because most people do this, but it's really easy to cut from the second to the third pull really quickly from your knee to your hip, and that will make the power twice as slow, and it will make it'll make the bar bump just that little half an inch that makes you slightly lean forward, which again I wasn't impervious to today, but I still did way better than I thought. And I've been trying to catch my body upright more and get my elbows in a good position. My split jerks have never felt so consistent. That is another thing that I'm very, very proud of. I'm getting used to it. I'm not used to the equipment just yet, but I feel like I put in twice as much experience today that I did the other month when I left and came back, I guess just take it with a grain of salt. I feel like I'm rambling at this fucking point, but there's always another side of it that you can look at to where it can make you an even better lifter in the long run of it. It doesn't just have to be a matter of, oh, well, this is just not as good as the best quality, so I might as well just fucking give up and go to the next one. Like, give it, it's like programming. My program is never going to be 100% the best that it could be, but I'm doing as close to it as I possibly can. And when my body grows and changes, whether I get weaker or stronger or fatter or skinnier, whatever, if my body changes, I have to adapt to that day by day. So I adapt to these different equipments by by focusing my lifting in different ways. Typically, like at the crunch, I can kind of just whip as hard as I want, but have to focus on the catch more. Vice versa, at the crunch, I can focus a little bit less on the catch and focus more on my form getting there so that it's a little bit less strenuous on my body. There's always a plus and a minus to everything. It's just how much you want to focus on either or. So I am putting the equipment behind me. It's not the equipment that's holding me back. It's just going to be me that's holding me back. So I got to try to, work with these quote unquote limiters on. And at some point, it'll feel like I'm working out with nothing on. And even if I am still limited compared to the other gym, if I am putting in that maximum effort and feeling great, disciplined, consistent, and passionate every day, that's all I care about. I'm still making progress every single day and loving life. So why the fuck complain? And I one of the things I say so much, but this gym is like a second home to me. As cringy as it may sound, having this many homies in one spot where we all show up, everybody knows who's going to be there, everybody knows who's trying to stay consistent and do their best, whatever. And it's such a nice feeling to know that you're going to have these wonderful people in your life that you have no relation to, no expectations with. They don't have to do anything for you, and you don't have to do anything for them, but you do, because you just love each other. You just want to see each other do better without any of the strings attached. No fucking social cues or familial bonds where you feel like you have to do something for obligation. Not that familial bonds are bad, just these are just such raw connections that it makes me feel so much more together when it comes to what I love doing with my life. This is why it's so much easier to live in the present with what I'm doing. It's just, I love what I'm doing, and it doesn't matter if I'm not making enough as much money. It doesn't matter if I'm not doing a bunch of other stuff that most people would be like, oh, you need to be more productive. I just love what I'm doing right now. That's not gonna be the same forever, but again, I'm willing to adapt and accept what I got day by day just to do the best that I can. So let me know how life's been going, how the lift's been going. I genuinely love fucking hearing about it. And tomorrow I rest. I know you will not get to see me for a full 24 hours, but it will be okay. I will be back, and we get to start rep maxing, which will be really fun. I've put in my 2 weeks of good volume, and now we're going to see where the weights are going to go. And I'm just going to take it ear by ear, just love it every second, regardless of what big numbers, big heavy circles I get to throw over my head. So I appreciate you sticking around. See ya.